Alright, welcome back to Jazz Time. JazzTime.com is an online store that buys, sells, and trades authentic luxury watches. We make these videos so you can easily choose the best watch for yourself in the comfort of your own home. We offer the lowest prices anywhere online. If you'd like to know the price, simply click on the links in the description below. We greatly appreciate it if you purchase your next watch from us at JazzTime.com. Today we'll be going over a vintage model Rolex GMT Master with a red and blue dial, previously and still known as the Pepsi, reference number 1675. And that is to say that this is basically in the vintage line because, well, model numbers are no longer 4 digits. They're more of the 5 and 6 digits now, like the 126710 BLRO here. This is basically what it looks like today with the Jubilee bracelet. It's also available on the Oyster Bracelet as well, but as you can see, there's quite a number of differences that have taken place since the inception of the 1675, since the Pepsi dial GMT Master, right, now known as the GMT Master 2, the original GMT Master right here in my left hand, you can see actually has quite a few interesting old and interesting facets to it. All right, so we'll be going over the case, the dial, bezel, crown, the crown functions as well, and I'll be going into some really interesting little details about this specific model. While if you place an order for one of these and we manage to find one for you, it's not going to be this same exact model, highly unlikely, and I'll get into why further into the video. All right, so starting off with this case, we have a full stainless steel construction here. I believe it is a 40mm case, so not much has changed there in terms of the diameter. The overall sort of finish here, we have a high polish finish on the sides with a brush finishing along the front of the case, as you can see on these lugs. All right, again, all in stainless steel with the integrated Oyster Bracelet with hollow end links, and this also comes with the holes in the case for easy removal of those end links. All right, so if you need to pop the bracelet off, you can do so rather simply there. Taking a look at this bezel here, we have an aluminum bezel, all right, with that aluminum insert, so much easier to make than with the ceramic, but you still have that true red and true blue colors on here, and if you'll note, this is actually a very, very vibrant colored bezel, and it's very likely due to the fact that this specific watch, the one I have in my hands right here, has actually been serviced a number of times. I've opened this watch up and I've looked at the inside of the Caseback, all right, and on the inside there's a bunch of etchings with different manufacturing and refinishing, and just overall maintenance work has been done with this watch. So that is why this one is a bit of a Frankenstein in a sense, but it is still the same 1675 because the movement, well, we'll get to the movement in a moment. I'm getting ahead of myself. So again, back to this bezel, again, all aluminum, and very likely also replaced because it's a very good condition given that this watch is actually a 600,000 serial watch. That means it's from the early 60s, or specifically around 1962 or 1972 rather. It is a very, very old model. All right, and also taking a look at the dial here, we have a matte black finish, and this is sort of what threw me off initially when we were evaluating this watch. We're looking at all the aspects of the dial that make this one unique. It's easier to tell the era from which this watch came based on the dial because it's all presented right there. So, well, the original dial had a small arrow on the GMT hand, and well, that's not really the case. It's not all that small. All right, so that's out. The second version of the dial, the Mark I, has the very, very thin prongs of the crown of this logo, which this doesn't have. And it also has a long middle arm of that E in Rolex, which, as you can see, is actually shorter than the rest of the two arms, the top and bottom arm. So, no, it's not the Mark I. The Mark II dial shows that the letters L and E in Rolex are actually positioned closer together, giving you a, well, basically showing that the kerning for those two letters is a little bit off, and well, these letters are actually very nicely spaced apart, so it's not a Mark II either. A Mark III has smaller lume plots placed further from the chapter ring. Well, we don't have a chapter ring here. These are just basic index markers for the minute and seconds, so it's not a Mark III. The Mark IV has larger, moved back to the larger lume plots for all of these index markers for the hours, but the right stem of the M in Master lines up with the very center of the C in Chronometer. Well, that's not the case here, so it's not a Mark IV. The Mark V, however, moves the M, the right stem of the M, in alignment with the right side of the C in Chronometer, and that is exactly what we have here. We have a Mark V dial. The Mark V dial was made for a rather short period of time, between about 1978 to 1980, thereabouts, so we can average this dial to have been placed here from 1979, give or take a year or a few months, either direction. So keeping that in mind, well, we thought this was from 1979, about. So when I opened up the case here and looked at the movement, I saw that it was actually the 1565 movement, and found that, well, the 1565 isn't really consistent with that, plus it's a 600,000 serial, making it a different era of the watch. And so the part that told the story was, again, the caseback, which had the etchings on the inside showing the dates and the times for the refinishings and the service intervals. And so given that this watch had been serviced around 20 years after its creation in the early 60s, well, it makes sense that they would probably have replaced the dial, because maybe there were some corrosion happening on the dial. Maybe the hands were also corroded as well. As you can see, these hands are actually very nicely preserved, all right? And also, it has a very interesting matte black finish on this dial, whereas on the newer style, the 126710 BLRO, has less of a matte finish. It's more glossy, all right? So it doesn't really absorb, or it doesn't really diffuse light as much. As you can see, it's more, you know, basically either just straight up reflecting it or absorbing it, not really dispersing it. Whereas here on the 1675, we have more dispersion of that color, so you can actually see the matte finish on this dial. Very, very small detail. You're probably not going to notice it. All right, and while we're here, we can actually look at the luminescence of this dial. All right, that's to say, well, no luminescence, basically. All right, and we can even test that out with a little handy flashlight that I have here to basically boost it, and again, no luminescence, and that's to, you know, basically further accrediting this to, you know, the era of which it was made. All right, now also underneath the 3 o'clock position, we do have that Cyclops lens on this acrylic crystal with that sort of domed Cyclops lens, so you can very easily read it underneath there, right? You get that magnification of the date. And speaking of the date, well, there's actually no rapid setting of the date. If you look at the crown function, simply unwinding the crown to the first position allows you to wind the watch, nothing too new there. About 20 or 30 full winds will get you to the full power reserve. No issue there. Pull the crown out and that's it. That's just the one position that you can pull it to, and it adjusts the minute hand as seen here. Now, keep in mind that the newer versions, especially the modern 126710 BLRO models, allow you to move that hour hand independently of all the other hands, and well, this one doesn't really allow you to do that. So this 24-hour GMT hand isn't necessarily a GMT hand. It's simply a 24-hour hand, very much like that of the Rolex Explorer. So it basically will tell you when you're close to midnight because, well, It's close to midnight now. Moving it close to midnight will advance that date forward, and changing the date on this watch like this does require moving the minute hand entirely, like as you can see here. And it's not that rapid of a setting either, because, well, the time changing, or the date change engagement, does last for quite a bit. So not that there's a quick set of the date to affect the timekeeping or the maintenance, or, you know, the overall performance of this movement. So, you know, nothing to worry about there. But keep in mind that you basically can't move that GMT hand just by moving the minute hand and then moving the hour hand. So how does this even work? So that's a question I basically had, and the answer I came up with was, well, the bezel obviously rotates, so you still have that GMT function as you would typically find. So you can just rotate the bezel and align it with the position of that hour hand. All right, so you can say that, okay, we're at about 7 p.m. wherever this GMT hand is pointing, and I can still see the local time represented by the hour and minute hands. Nice and easy, rather simple there, right? But the added benefit of having this newer version, the 126710 BLRO, is that this one gives you 3 time zones, whereas the older GMT Master only gives you 2 possible time zones, up to 2 time zones. If you want to see how you can tell 3 different time zones, well, you can extrapolate from this video, or just watch our video on the 126710 BLRO down in our YouTube channel, or just watch it on our website. Either one works. Okay, so basically that's all it is there. And again, the movement for this watch is the 1565, built on the 1560, which is a chronometer movement. All right, it's fully automatic. It has the center, hour, and minute, and seconds hands with that GMT hand, 24-hour GMT hand that you would find in a Rolex Explorer model. All right, except this one has the rotatable bezel. It beats at a frequency of 18,000 vibrations per hour, so relatively low compared to the newer style of GMT Masters and basically all modern Rolex models, which beat at 28,800 vibrations per hour. All right, it has 26 jewels and has the KIF Flector shock absorbers with a microstella balance and the Rolex P/N 7980 balance assembly. So while I wouldn't say that this is absolutely superior in terms of its creation, its overall content in terms of the movement, it is still rather impressive. It will still work. And as you can see, this is early 2021. This watch was made nearly 50 years ago, 60 years ago, and so it's still running just fine. Granted, there were a few service intervals between then and now, but Rolex will still fix it and keep it running. As you can see, it's running just fine, right? And all of this gives you a total power reserve of 42 hours. So the 42-hour power reserve is almost 2 full days without having to wind the watch using the crown. And given that it is an automatic movement, you can simply just wear the watch on your wrist, and the natural movements of your wrist will keep that internal rotor constantly winding the mainspring within the balance. All right, now taking a look at this bracelet, we have the Oyster 3-piece link bracelet, all satin brush finished on every conceivable surface here. We also have the hollow center links. As you can see, there's spacing within those intermediate portions, the middle portions of these links. All right, so that gives it a little bit of extra flexibility. Not the best idea for the more solid or form-fitting wearing, but it's not bad if you are wearing this in a sports-like setting. All right, now moving down to the clasp, we have the Rolex stamped clasp there with the safety lock. Simply lift the lock from the bottom and lift it from the top to open the clasp. You have the Rolex stamped seal on the inside. All right, there's also a sort of an extension here. Now, this extension doesn't really serve much of a purpose other than to actually help you keep the bracelet in place if you were to take this off. Now, I can't think of any other reason why it was placed like this other than to, well, prevent the clasp from sort of flopping about wildly if you were to have this, you know, more form fitted to your wrist, right? Now, while I'm here, I can actually try it on, give you my thoughts as to how it wears, or how it used to wear on a wrist back then. My wrist is 7 inches in circumference, so about 18 centimeters, right? And given this dial, still rather big for me. I'm not getting a whole lot of bracelet from 12 to 6, but I can see the bezel and the dial very, very clearly. Now, given that this is an acrylic crystal, it's not entirely glare proofed, so if you're in an indoor setting with a lot of specular lighting, as you can see with like the light box lights up here above me, well, you're going to get a lot of reflection in that, but you can just simply tilt the watch to where you can actually read it, and, you know, no problem there. Extremely light on the wrist, and with a very good form factor for these lugs. This is not the super case, as you can see from the newer style of the 126710 BLRO. That's more modern, sharp, and just overall more solid in its construction, and much heavier actually. Whereas this older 1675 model is actually incredibly light, incredibly thin, and for its overall wear, it feels like a dress watch, all things considered, but it's still a GMT watch. It gives you a 24-hour hand along with the rotatable bezel, giving you the option and functionality of a GMT style watch. All right. Now, again, all of these things are specific to this watch and this watch only. However, we will have this entry up on our website to, you know, essentially cover the 1675 Pepsi style dials, and they all basically run the same, unless you have the newer style. Well, actually, I take that back. They don't all run the same. There are different versions of the movements as well. This one being the oldest, the 1565. They iterated up to the 1575, and then a variation of the 1575 with hacking seconds. As you saw earlier when I was setting the minute hand on this this particular model, the seconds hand does not actually stop. It just keeps going. So you don't have that hacking seconds function. You don't have the absolute full-on precision that you would typically have from a modern Rolex, but, you know, that's fine. Most people aren't telling the time and giving you the seconds as well. They just give you the hour and minutes, and that's fine. All right, so that's about it for this video. Hope you liked it. If you did, hit that like button. Helps us out, as well as subscribing and hit the bell notification so you can be notified when we go live with another video like this one. And as always, if you'd like to purchase this watch or any other watch, new, such as the new 126710 BLRO Pepsi with the ceramic dial, we have it on Jubilee and Oyster. Yeah, we can get that for you on our website, jazztime.com, or we can even get this older sort of vintage model, much lighter in its construction and just feels different, and but it still has the same sensibilities of that modern 126710 BLRO from which this had been superseded. We can still get these for you as well from our website, jazztime.com. Hit the buy now button to secure your copy, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care.
If you want to find out more about the watch you just saw in the video, you can just click below on Show More to see the full description. Then you can check the link next to model as seen in video, click on it, and you will get to the proper page where you can see all the details. If you're watching on a mobile phone, you have to click on the arrow down on the right hand side below the video to see the full description. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. If you would like to share this video with your friends, you can use the share button below and share it on any platform you like. If you have questions, constructive feedback, want to tell us about some mistakes or misspeaks, just write a comment below. If you want to see more videos like this, you should subscribe to our channel and visit our channel page where you can find all the videos. And if you're interested in a specific watch brand, you can check out our playlists If you want to check the price for a watch or want to buy one, remember at jazztime.com you always get a steep discount, so you should check the prices with us. If you want to know the price for a specific watch, just go to Google, type in JazzTime, plus the brand, model and the details you're interested in, and Google will find the right page for you. Thank you for watching.